Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 589 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our sixth book just came out. It's called I'm So Beautiful, It's Ridiculous. Unleashing and Promoting Strength, Self-Worth, and Real Sisterhood. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, I talk about alcohol and drug abuse prevention with college student audiences very often. And understanding adverse child experiences, also known as ACEs, is really crucial when working on alcohol and drug abuse prevention because it provides essential insight into why some students are more vulnerable to substance misuse, and it helps us to shape trauma-informed prevention strategies. ACE awareness is actually really critical because it helps colleges move from what's wrong with you, that mindset, to what happened to you mindset, which is really where we need to be. So by understanding the deeper roots of substance misuse, and by the way, a lot of the substance misuse that you might see in your fraternity or sorority, a lot of it has those deeper roots. It could be trauma, it could be all kinds of adverse child experiences. So if we understand the roots of that substance misuse, then prevention programs could be much more holistic, could be much more trauma informed and effective, ultimately fostering long-term resilience in college students today. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that with our next guest. Dr. Debra Palmer is a family nurse practitioner. She earned a PhD and a DNP from the University of San Diego and a BS degree from the College of St. Scholastica in Minnesota, where she was raised. She is a business owner, a nurse practitioner, and a former professor. Debra resides in California, where she enjoys hiking and gardening with her husband near their adult children. Welcome to the show, Debra.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, this is going to be a lot of fun, so I'm super excited that you're here as well. And you've had a really an incredible career as a nurse practitioner. You're a professor, now you're an author as well. The new book is called Between Wounded and Well. What first drew you to the field of nursing and healthcare?
As a child from about age 7, I wanted to be a nurse, and I was thinking it probably stems from being a patient, and I saw the compassion and care of nurses. But also there were books about nurses. Clara Barton, the founder of the Red Cross, and I learned about Florence Nightingale. And in those days, there weren't a lot of options for girls. You were going to be a school teacher or a nurse.
I think you're probably right about that. I think that's why my mom got into nursing as well, and did that her entire career. I mean, there really wasn't a ton of options at that time. And so let's talk about the book. It's really a blend of science, spirituality, personal storytelling. Tell our audience what inspired you to write this book called Between Wounded and Well.
I think it started back in the 90s because I was an oversharer. I had a lot of adversities, and those folks have no healthy boundaries. They tell everything. I was an open book, and people would say, "Oh my God, you should write a story." So a lot of friends were an inspiration. And then recognizing my own woundedness, when the whole understanding of what codependence was, when you're helping everybody else at the expense of harming your own well-being, putting others before your own health, like you don't put that oxygen mask on first, recognizing that in myself. And then just after COVID, just thinking about the nursing profession and past, present, and future nurses, and how so many caregivers, nurses, social workers, chaplains, are drawn to the caring professions in part because of their own woundedness and potential for codependence. So those three things, I think, contributed to my final decision that, yeah, I'm going to write this book.
That's so interesting, that common thread line with nurses. And you're right. I mean, I remember losing a ton of nurses after COVID. A lot of nurses retired and found other things to do. It really does make you appreciate, I think, the doctors and the nurses that are in those hospitals that do that job, regardless of the fact that they might be putting themselves in harm's way by doing so. Now, you talk about the four A's of overcoming woundedness. Can you walk walk us through what are the 4 A's of overcoming woundedness, and how can students apply them in everyday challenges?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I started this with the framework of the 4 stages of wound healing as a physical healing. The first one being hemostasis. You're cut, you're bleeding. So the first A is awareness. Aware of, what are you thinking? What do you believe? Where did those thoughts and beliefs come from? And what are they based on? So often our mindset is something we don't even understand where it came from, and it's not even based on reality. Maybe something, a fable somebody told you. So that awareness is really important. You need to be aware that you're bleeding, or you can't do anything to stop it. The second one is acknowledging our interconnectedness universally. We are all connected, I believe, and meant to be in relationship to help each other heal. Sometimes we're the receiver and we have to swallow our pride, and sometimes we're the giver. So acknowledging our connections in ways that you might not even recognize, with the planet, with the earth, with people around us, and through the internet even. So that acknowledgement of our connectedness and that which gives us meaning and purpose, the creator of all of that, whichever that is in your belief set. And the third, I should say that that's tied in with the inflammation phase. Inflammation is when you get those white blood cells defending the body, but also those critters that are eating up everything that's not good for you. You got to all work together. You got to all be interconnected to get the job done. The third one is that knowing what you believe and what you're thinking and acknowledging all those connections is not enough. You got to do something with it. You got to act on it. Like there's got to be an action potential that's triggered. And that third stage of healing, proliferation, where you build up new tissue to fill the gap in the wound. If you don't start building the gap, nothing's going to happen to promote that healing. And then that last the fourth stage, which is when that scar is finally developed, it's acceptance. Sometimes we're never going to get back to what we were before. We're going to be left with the scar, accepting what we have control over in our life and what we do not have control over our life, and feeling empowered on what we can do to make a difference in our healing. So that's the 4 stages of healing from my perspective.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think the college students can definitely use that. And you also mentioned assessing the wellness of the soul. What does that look like in practical terms, especially for the students who are listening who are juggling academics, they're juggling a part-time job, and even social stress?
Right. So from a nursing perspective, I see the person holistically, their mind, what they think and what they feel, their physical body, and their spiritual well-being. That to me, meaning that which gives them purpose in life and a sense of meaning in life, is kind of the driver of all that motivates us. And we can assess that with valid and reliable spiritual assessment tools that help us align the patient's reason for wanting to live another day. What motivates them? It might be somebody in hospice, and you say, what matters to you today? What's going to give you the most purpose today? I want to live till Sunday. When my daughter gets married, I'm going to watch it on Zoom. It might be something that simple. So that's your spiritual assessment. If you're not in tune to what drives you, what motivates you to get up the next day, you're missing out on a key part of who you are.
Mm. I love that you look at everything holistically. I think that's really just refreshing to me. It seems like doctors now, they're so specialized and they only look at that one piece that they specialize in, and they don't really look at the entire body and how all of these systems are working together. So I really like your approach. I think it's great. And how do you recommend that college students begin practicing these 7 practices for positive well-being that you describe in the book?
So I'll tell you, they're subtle. They're not really well set out. It's for the individual to discern, but I will boil them down to 7 for you.
Mm-hmm.
And number 1 is what I've already addressed, and that's knowing your source of power. What gives you that sense of purpose? It might be a religion. It might be a faith tradition. There's something. It might be something in your ancestry. So knowing that being tuned into it is going to make a difference. And it's a long process. I spent a year out of college studying 7 faith traditions because I was ticked off with what I grew up with. I didn't like what I saw, but I had to, it's painful. You have to sort it all out. Number 2 is a combination of recognizing what helps take care of you both physically and mentally. So it's physical practices, that's sleep hygiene, nutrition, movement, and stress management, but also mental health, which is tied with, do we have connections with personal connections, family, friends, your community? That is all going to drive our overall well-being because it opens our mind to opportunities and resources that can help us. And then the third one, I had to look up in my own book, recognizing that sometimes it's beyond personal and family and friends. We need professional help. Recognizing our limitations. Do we need to see a financial advisor, a psychologist? I was significantly depressed for a period of time right out of college. I needed professional services, and I was a proud person. I really drug my feet doing that. Or it might just be you need to buy a house, you need a realtor. So those professional services, don't discount them. The fourth one is healthy boundaries. Knowing what to let in and what to keep out in your personal life, your social life, your academic life, and your career. And that's a process of discernment. And you'll, if you're really listening to your body and your emotions, it'll become clearer to you. The fifth one is having self-compassion and acceptance. By that, I mean knowing when to forgive yourself and when to forgive others so you can move on. We can really get stuck with anger and feeling we've been slighted and not being able to forgive. Mm-hmm. And sixth, one of my favorite, is lifelong learning. It never ends, way beyond college. It might be through books and movies, the arts, but listening to your inner mindfulness that's driving your curiosity and following that curiosity and continuing to learn. I'm learning how to use my computer. I'm learning how to do podcasts. I mean, it never ends. I got my PHD in my 60s, my DNP in my 50s. It doesn't have to be just academic, though. Anything that promotes that curiosity and fulfills it. And the last one is gratitude. A daily gratitude journal, especially when you're stuck. It helps you refocus, recenter, so you don't go down that drain of negativity. So that would be my 7 practices for promoting positive well-being.
That is just absolutely awesome. And you talked a little bit about forgiveness. I think, that's kind of the one where I get stuck. And I'm sure the students who are listening right now, they get stuck with could be emotionally or academically or socially. You talked about gratitude. You talked about seeing a professional. Are there any other small but really powerful steps that the students can take in order to start that healing process?
Yeah, I think when you're really feeling overwhelmed, you don't even want to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. You're going to skip class, right, and you're sensing something's not quite right. That's when we need to really stop and take stock of what's going on. Sometimes we're so busy getting that assignment done and your work schedule, you really don't take that time out to recognize what's going on internally. So stopping and recognizing, is it my stomach that's tense? Am I getting a migraine headache? Is it low back pain? Where's it coming from? And one tool that I've found to be so helpful is called an emotional wheel. It's just a diagram of the basic 7 emotions, and it's like a pie chart. And each one of those pieces of pie, whether it's anger, could be related to like 10 other things. So identifying what's that emotion that's driving that physical response. Because sometimes if we can get back to the emotion, maybe it is anger. Maybe you need to forgive somebody. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is you're lonely. You don't have any friends. You moved to a new school. You don't know anybody. Just getting a sense of what is it, that emotion that's got you stuck and causing you not to move forward in your academics or your job. I think that can be very helpful.
Yeah. I started earlier talking about ACEs, and I know you were very deeply influenced by ACE studies. Why do you think that an understanding of adverse childhood experiences is so important for today's young adults?
Well, you kind of alluded to it at the beginning of your show. Once we understand that of the 10 adversities you experience, what they are, and recognize that they affect your behavior, they affect your responses. And sometimes without knowing that, we feel shameful. We feel like we're not good enough. Negative self-esteem, we don't compare with other people that aren't dragged down with the effects psychologically and physically of having a lot of adversity. So I think recognizing it's not what's wrong with you, you have nothing to be ashamed of. It's what happened to you that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
What happened around you? There's too many secrets. I just had lunch with Dr. Vince Folletti last month down in San Diego. After he read my memoir, he said something to the effect that, Debbie, what you revealed is the importance of not keeping these secrets about family adversities, because we can't move on from them if we don't acknowledge them.
That's a great point. It really, really is. And so many of these young adults in college today, they've had these ACEs, but they haven't really dealt with them or talked to anybody about them. And so many times you'll find that they might be in your fraternity or sorority chapter abusing alcohol, abusing drugs, and they're really just trying to mask all of those things because they haven't really dealt with that. They haven't really confronted any of it. And so that's what I noticed was kind of the common denominator in my own chapter when I saw somebody who was abusing alcohol or drugs on a regular basis. They're blacking out, 3 nights a week. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why are you doing this? And then I'm like, oh, it's what happened to you. Oh, okay. So then that was kind of that light bulb moment. So interesting, so fascinating. I also really like the fact that you like to give back. I think that's really admirable. I mean, you've been a leader in the healthcare community. You volunteered in Guatemala, of all places. So talk about how your service work has contributed to your own healing and your own purpose.
Well, first I will start by saying being in a foreign country, especially a third world country, was an eye opener. I brought my children when they were teenagers along with me.
Mm.
And we recognized that wealth and education do not make for a happy family alone. I saw poverty and happy, happy families. I saw that we all universally have some of the same basic needs. We need to feel loved. We need to feel like we belong somewhere. So that was quite an eye opener to me, how we're all so universally the same, basically at heart. While I was there, I was mourning the loss of my 39-year-old sister who died from alcoholism. And the team that I had assembled of doctors and nurses, I had planned to be their support person. I wasn't going to be seeing patients this time around. I was going to be available to give people breaks. And what I found out is they helped me deal with my own grief in such a loving and caring way. And it's a principle that I drive home in the book, how healing is a constant reciprocal giving and taking, giving and receiving of our gifts, our talents, our skills. It might be an observation, it might be kind words. And that happened to me in Guatemala, and it reminded me that that should happen every day wherever we are.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that completely. There's actually research data out there right now that talks about the benefit that you receive when you actually do community service and you give back. You actually get benefit from that as well. And I would encourage all of the college students who are listening right now, especially those fraternity and sorority members, not only to do the community service that we took an oath to do when we joined our organization, but also to immediately talk about that community service and what was that impact that it had on you by doing that community service and giving back. I think all of us are very fortunate in life to be able to go to these amazing institutions of higher education. Not everybody gets the opportunity to go to college. That doesn't happen everywhere, especially as you travel to some of these third world countries that you were talking about. They don't get those kind of opportunities. So I feel like we're really fortunate. And I think it's really important that we all start giving back and talking about how we felt when we gave back as a group. Because ultimately, that is how you're going to build those connections with other students. You're going to find out all kinds of things that you didn't know about these students, about their, them growing up and about their youth and other things that motivate them that otherwise you never would have known. And I think that really is going to help you to build those bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood. That's really where you feel it, is working shoulder to shoulder with your brothers and sisters. That's where you're going to feel those feelings of brotherhood and sisterhood. It's not going to be by having more social events. I promise you. The getting intoxicated or blacking out certainly is not going to help you feel any closer to your brothers and sisters. So start thinking about that. I think that's really important. I think we can take that from your work, Deborah. Really, really good.
I would also say if you're going into a profession, teaching, nursing, whatever your profession, most have professional associations.
Mm.
And getting involved in them might seem like an overkill for you, but that's where you meet the most wonderful mentors and motivators and learn new skills. And then eventually you become that mentor and motivator. And that's how we perpetuate the well-being of our professions as well as our personal well-being.
Yeah, I love those professional associations. I think they're great. And a lot of college students, they'll graduate and not really know where to go to plug in and find other like-minded folks. And so those professional associations, I think, are great. Certainly the Rotary clubs, there's a lot of Rotary clubs around and they do community service. And it's very similar to a fraternity or sorority, but for, older people who have graduated from college. And it's usually all of the leaders in the community. So it's a real good way to instantly find out who the leaders are, instantly start building a relationship through service. I mean, that's really the bottom line, is giving back to the communities. That's why these civic organizations like Lions Club and Rotary clubs, that's why they exist. And so I would highly recommend that if you're new to a city, you just graduated from college, got a job in some city that you don't know anybody, go check out the local Rotary Club and go and start doing some community service. And I think you're really going to start building those bonds very, very quickly. I'm wondering, Deborah, looking back at everything, is there a particular message that you hope that college students are going to take away from your book and your story?
Yeah, I think it's just recognizing life is nothing but a cycle. We're constantly rejuvenating. It's like our body, our intestinal lining depletes every 3 months, our blood cells, our bone tissue. We're constantly replenishing it. We're going to have down times, and they're normal. And sometimes it's a wake-up call that we need to slow down and take stock of what's going down in our lives. So just recognizing we will have temporary times when you're not sure what the future holds,
Mm.
but recognizing that we shouldn't make a permanent decision for a temporary setback.
Mm.
In other words, school might be tough right now. Does that mean you quit? Or maybe cut back in the number of credits you're taking, cut back the number of hours at work, cut back on your volunteer work, or get back into those 7 practices for promoting positive well-being. It might be you've been neglecting some of them, not getting the sleep that you need, or relying too much on caffeine or substances. So just knowing you'll have those times and they're temporary.
Yeah.
And that gives you the sense of hope that it's going to get better. And it
Hmm.
does. But it's up to you and
Yeah.
what you're thinking, what your attitude is. Is it a temporary problem or permanent problem?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, you mentioned sleep. I mean, that's such an overlooked piece for college students. Every single one of the college students that I meet on the road when I'm speaking, every single one of them, they're not getting enough sleep. I mean, let's just start right there. I mean, we can look at other things like their diet and we can look at other things like exercise. Yes, all of those things are absolutely critical, absolutely important, but even just sleep. Are you getting enough sleep? I need the college students to ask that question. How many hours of sleep did you get, each night over the last week? And I'm telling you, it's not enough. And so I think even small things like that can make a really, really big impact. So I appreciate this. This has been really, really delightful. Where can our student listeners find your book? It's called Between Wounded and Well. Where can they go to buy the book? Where can they go to connect with you or your wellness business?
So the book will be out on Amazon and in the bookstores on September 18th. In August, I will have the link to pre-order it on my website, www.debra, Debra Palmer, Palmer.com.
Perfect. All right, everybody. So make sure that you bookmark her website. It's debrapalmer.com, DebraPalmer.com. Go to the website, bookmark it, and then head back there in August so that way you can pre-order the book that I think everybody listening is going to need to pick up. It's called Between Wounded and Well. So, Deborah, thank you so much for sharing all this great information with our college students today. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day, everybody.
Of course. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Debra Palmer, I want you to like it and I want you to share it with other college students that also need to hear her words. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.